Hi and welcome to the webinar. My name's Toby Knight. I'm a Solutions Architect Manager with Amazon Web Services. I've been with AWS for about 3 years. My role is I run a team of Solutions Architects in the UK, and we look after a number of customers in the UK retail sector. So I've had many conversations with retailers around their challenges and their solutions with big data. So what are we going to cover today? So the agenda looks like this. We're going to start off by discussing some of the obstacles, what's holding back big data in retail, what are the challenges that customers face and what slows them down. Secondly, we'll talk about how we and how our customers go about solving those retail big data challenges. What are the patterns that customers use? What are the approaches that are successful? And how do customers get value from that? And then thirdly, we'll talk a bit about more future-facing, enabling new retail experiences. So those could be customer experiences, those could be ways of adapting or innovating or making your business more efficient using big data. So let's get started. So what's holding back big data in retail? What are the factors that slow customers down? What are the obstacles? Well, we find that retailers want to use big data. Almost universally, retailers we speak to are seeking to differentiate themselves by creating unique customer experiences. Most retailers realize that using big data will help them to make their business operations more efficient, to reduce their costs, and enable them to run a more efficient operation, say in the warehouse, in the store, and so on. Most retailers also realize that providing these experiences and this level of business optimization will require a better handle on big data and a stronger capability around big data technology and how to go about adopting it and getting value from it. So many of our customers and the companies we talk to are actively planning on creating data-enabled experiences and have projects in flight. But as we said, big data is still a challenge to many retailers. A few of the common challenges that are frequently cited and referenced in the conversations that we have with customers across the key stages of the big data pipeline are as follows. Firstly, retailers live with many data silos. Few of those data silos talk to each other, and this makes it difficult to assemble a single source of the truth about customers or the retailer's operations. Secondly, many retailers don't have the ability to ingest the new types of data that will be required to create these differentiated experiences now and in the future. IoT sensor data, image or video data, unstructured text, clickstreams, and so on. And third, many retailers are working with fairly limited analytics platforms. Quite often we talk to companies who are using Excel on someone's desktop. New analytics capabilities such as machine learning and artificial intelligence are required to enable the desired future state customer experiences. So the first challenge, and perhaps the most significant for most retailers, is that their data simply doesn't connect. Most retailers live with a number of different data systems, systems of record, transactional systems, and few of those are in regular communication. Firstly, e-commerce platforms. We find many customers use systems like SAP Hybris, IBM WebSphere Commerce, Magento, and others. And these systems, whether they're a packaged piece of software like that or an in-house developed solution, generate large amounts of transactional data. Various line of business applications, ERP systems, each of which will have their own applications, their websites, and data stores. Data warehouses have long been used for historical reports and storing historical transactions to provide management information systems and reports over the years. And lastly, point of sale systems, which provide the retailer with a potential store and a feed of real-time data transactions. And we'll come to that in the following sections. The second challenge that customers often cite and that we see in our conversations is a rigid data ingestion. This is also challenging companies in preventing them from using big data and getting value from it. Most retailers' data platforms, maybe on-premise, are not set up to ingest these new types of data that are used to build differentiated experiences. These include data sources like in-store video, IoT sensor data, speech or unstructured text data, clickstream data, and social media feeds. In addition, many retail data systems typically have a rigid schema on write format. This dictates how data is structured before we decide what we want to use it for. For traditional retail reporting functions, like standard order reporting, this poses no problem. But when we want to empower teams to create new experiences using all available data sources, this rigidity can be a burden. The ways of working and the technology don't allow the agility and the flexibility to ask and answer business questions as modern businesses now need. And the third challenge, limited analytics platforms. As we said, for many retailers, this is a series of spreadsheets. It's difficult to share data, it's difficult to create reports, and it really holds back the retailer in terms of being able to visualize, being able to present the results of whatever analysis they've performed. It provides limited ability to use new analytics solutions for innovation, things like machine learning. As we said, the ability to present analysis on things like image or video analysis, ad hoc queries, experimentation, and so on. So how do we and how do our customers go about solving retail data challenges? What are some of the approaches that we've seen been successful? Well, AWS helps unlock big data for retail in 3 ways. AWS platform is future-proof for new data types. AWS is continually innovating and adding new features and services to provide for our customers' needs. We've added services like Amazon Rekognition to provide AI and ML-based analysis and inference from image data. We've provided patterns to customers to provide and analyze social media. We've got an IoT platform to allow IoT sensor data to be input and so on. Secondly, the single source of truth, the data lake, is well catered for on AWS based on AWS Simple Storage Service, or S3, a secure and scalable backbone for all incoming data and analytics. We'll talk about some of those services in the sections that follow. And lastly, the right analytics tool for every job, whether it's machine learning, Hadoop-based clusters as a service using EMR, platform-level services for SQL querying, such as Athena, or a serverless data catalog and ETL service like AWS Glue. For example, a retailer may want to start experimenting with in-store IoT sensor data. The AWS IoT Suite offers a range of tools to capture and pre-process this sensor data before you pull it into the S3 data lake, and eventually access it with an analytics tool and maybe present it using something like QuickSight. Or a retailer may want to start pulling in live clickstream data from its e-commerce site to analyze customer shopping patterns. Amazon Kinesis helps ingest and manage this type of real-time data. The key thing here is every AWS data ingestion tool connects natively to the S3 data lake. This allows you to rapidly ingest and experiment with multiple sources of data and infer business solutions or get business answers from those many sources of data by landing them in that core single source of truth, that central data lake. So let's dive a bit deeper into that first benefit, that single source of truth. As we've said, today, retail systems feed into their own data stores, their own systems of record, and often sit as separate data siloed. The information itself is siloed. This prevents any single source of truth. Using a data lake based on Amazon S3 and unified storage, information is cross-referenceable and customers can achieve business benefit from bringing together two or more data sources and understanding the customer, understanding the stock position and so on by unifying those points of data. The second benefit we're going to talk about is how AWS allows customers to create a solution that's future-proof for new data types. Today, a retailer systems might be set up for ingesting standard retail data types, the ones we've discussed here, e-commerce transaction data, point of sale transaction data, or other line of business and ERP systems. Tomorrow, as your business expands and you innovate and add new types of ways of interacting with customers and new ways of measuring stock as it moves through your value chain, you can add new types of retail data, clickstream data, in-store video, in-store IoT data, or take speech data from a customer call center or from a digital application provided to end users that's based on speech or voice. All of those types of data sources can be brought into Amazon S3, and then you can apply analysis across two or more data sets to derive business benefit and insight. And the third benefit, on AWS you have the right analytic tool for every job. Whether that's Amazon Redshift for your data warehouse, Amazon Aurora for your relational database. Tomorrow you might be using machine learning as a service using Amazon ML. You may be using Amazon Elastic MapReduce to explore unstructured data, or Athena, a platform-based SQL querying tool to do ad hoc queries on your S3 data. As we said, Amazon Rekognition provides you with analysis of image and video data. And there are many more services on AWS that give you the right analytic tool for every job. As we said, all of these AWS tools interoperate with S3 and use S3 as a data source, giving you a future-proofed ability to choose any tool you need. You can pay for these tools on a pay-as-you-go basis. You're free to experiment more quickly, simply turning off the service if it's no longer needed, or scaling up on demand as you double down on successful experiments. So we put all of that together and we have a pretty compelling reference architecture for big data solutions for retailers. We can take in those traditional retail data sources, e-commerce, point of sale, line of business. We can also ingest new types of retail data, IoT data, clickstream data, in-store video, and so on. On AWS, we provide traditional analytics along the lines of structured data warehouse services such as Aurora and Redshift, or advanced analytics on demand, looking at Amazon Athena, Rekognition, and so on. All based around that central data lake using Amazon S3 for a single source of truth. In practice, many customers will have stages in their data lake. They may have a raw landing zone where raw data can be ingested into S3. It may be processed and then stored in a more processed, structured, or refined form in S3. AWS allows that kind of staged ETL pipeline, and you can have that sort of data landing zone and then the processed data later on the right-hand side of your pipeline. We often get asked by customers, how can we get started with machine learning? Well, it starts with ingesting and storing your data in a single location, a modern data platform. On AWS, we provide services that makes machine learning more accessible to customers, such as Amazon ML as a service. It's an API-based tool that allows you to build and train a machine learning model and then apply it to get insights or to make predictions. More recently, we've added Amazon SageMaker, where again, you can build your own machine learning model, train it, and then deploy it as an endpoint in whatever application you need. For those with a deep data science capability, we also provide Amazon Deep Learning machine images that you can run on our Elastic Cloud Compute service for your data science team. So whatever your capability around data science, we've got a range of services that will make that capability accessible to you. So a modern data platform supports retail machine learning use cases, and we've listed some of them here. Some of the well-documented use cases for machine learning in retail are things like product recommendation engines. Many of us know the story of Netflix, which although is outside of the retail vertical, is often held up as an example of product recommendation engine. We also find customers building things like digital store assistants, using AI to help those in-store staff to better serve their customers. Personalization, so things like individual product recommendations or individual emails catered to the needs of the customer, catered to their product history, their demographic, and so on. And then pricing optimization, taking into account peak trading, weather, location, and so on. In the UK, we've seen some customers use AI and ML for forecasting and optimization, so things like managing their supply chain, understanding how much stock to send to a particular store based on historical sales in that store at that time of year, for use cases like allocation and replenishment. So moving ahead and looking into the future, how do we enable new retail experiences for retail customers on AWS? Well, in our experience, and using an Amazonian phrase, we work backwards from our customer. In this case, you work backwards from the target experience. So what area of your business do you want to get operational insights into? Is it your customer? Is it your stock or your inventory? So you start on the right-hand side of that pipeline and think, what sort of insight do I need to acquire or gain? And therefore, what types of customer or operational data do I need to feed into the left-hand side of the pipeline? As you work backwards to your target use case, it's important to note that there are different basic flavors of a data lake in the retail environment. Depending on your role and focus within the retail order-to-cash function or the area of the retail business that you're responsible for, you may want to focus in on maybe single view of the customer or consumer insights. You may want to look at supply chain management or optimizing your operations or warehouse operations, or getting an insight into your inventory. Or perhaps it's around post-sales insights. Who's making the most product returns? What do our customer satisfaction stats look like for a particular product set, a particular demographic, or a particular geography? Each of these areas will typically have a different executive sponsor or different owner for those business questions, which will ultimately be the driver for that retail data lake question, the owner within the business for that particular project or initiative. So let's look at the first one, is the customer insights data lake. This is very popular with customers and retailers who want to get to know their customers better, understand their preferences. So some of the questions are things like, what's a lifetime customer value look like? How can we sell cross-channel or look at a purchase history across channel for a particular customer or customer segment? Which types of customers do our products and product ranges sell well to, and how can we use that intelligence to target our promotions at the right customers? Conversion ratio insights. We see a lot of customers with e-commerce doing things like A/B testing. So piloting two different designs of their user interface and using data to decide which one's more successful, which one's more appropriate, and therefore which one should they move forward with. Similarly, for propensity to buy, many retailers want to use things like selective discounting. When should they discount? where, to whom. As we've said, the best way we see to work through these data lake challenges is to work backwards from the question you want to answer to the specific data types and sources to feed into the data lake, and we've listed some of them here. So the retail data type you feed into the data lake or the ETL pipeline might include something like point of sale transactions. It might include data from your order management system or perhaps your product catalog. And we've listed here some of the typical data sources that are included or typically used by retailers in each of those categories. What about an operations or inventory insights data lake? Again, start your journey by identifying the most important use cases. What are the business questions that you want to answer? Is it a real-time view of inventory or stock in store? We find many retailers, particularly in food and groceries, tend to have a nightly view of inventory or in-store stock. And so many haven't yet developed a real-time view of inventory. The data lake provides an opportunity there to build that real-time view and understand in real time what's our stock position in a given store for a given SKU. Similarly, around demand forecasting, what do we think the demand will be for a particular type of product, a particular SKU, taking into account things like big events, sporting events, holidays, and other seasonal variations in demand that many retailers are commonly accustomed to dealing with. How much stock should the retailer hold for a particular SKU? Taking into account historical data, feeding that into the data lake in order to come up with an optimized prediction. So again, working backwards, to answer those business questions, we've included some of the retail data types that are appropriate. Your supply chain management system, your warehouse management system. You might need to feed in data from your order management system. And again, here we've listed some of the typical data sources. So for example, for a warehouse management system, you might need to source data from your Manhattan Associates or your Oracle SAP system. If you were looking at gathering or garnering insights around post-sales, what are the use cases? What are the questions you might want to answer? Is it churn prediction? Do we want to understand which customers are going to go and start shopping elsewhere? Is it for looking for those cross-sell opportunities? Perhaps we're looking to do predictive support. Perhaps we're looking to understand which customers will need our help before they know that. Again, working backwards, here are some of the retail data types that we typically see as being relevant in each of those categories. So for a multi-channel campaign management, we may be looking at something like an Oracle system or an Adobe campaign management system. For CRM or customer care, it may be ServiceNow or Zendesk. So let's walk through an example of this working backwards process. What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve a new customer experience. We want to have a store-specific product assortment. That means we want to choose the right SKUs for the customers in that store, in that geography at this time of year. How are we going to go about achieving that? Well, working backwards, we're going to think about what we need to analyze. Which items are more popular in this geography and are purchased disproportionately high in this geography? What sort of weather patterns do we see in this local area? And what's the forecast? Can we use machine learning to analyze that data? Can we analyze video from the in-store to understand which areas of the store and which product ranges customers dwell on? Again, working backwards from the analyze stage through to the store stage, we'll look at storing those types of data in S3 in our Universal Data Lake store. The key thing then is ingesting those sources of data. So we'll need to ingest data from our e-commerce system to understand which purchases have been made. We'll need to ingest data from our Clickstream analytics system to understand where customers linger on the website, which products they hover over, and which products have a higher conversion rate. We'll certainly need to ingest point of sale data to understand when and where products are being sold in which stores, so that we can then attribute those sales to a particular geography at a particular point in time. As you said, in this case, we want to understand the impact of weather on customer sales and derive that product assortment for that particular geo in that store. So we'll need to ingest weather data. Perhaps we'll go to a third party and use their API and so on to ingest that data into S3. And lastly, we'll need to ingest the video feeds from in-store so that we can pass that to our video analytics system. So with AWS, we've got the tools to do all of this ingestion, all of the storage and the analysis to drive that new experience. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. And here I've included some links on where to find some more information. Firstly, we've got a link here to finding out which retail customers are already using AWS and the ways in which they're using AWS to make their business more successful. Secondly, we've got some quick start guides for big data and analytics on AWS. Many of these are infrastructure as code CloudFormation templates that you can spin up on AWS within minutes. If you're brand new to AWS, you may need to create an AWS account, and we've included a link here. And finally, if you want some more advice or some more help or want to talk to someone from AWS, we've got a link here that allows you to contact AWS sales. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.